Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daniel Essig, and this is Podcast for Life. On our last podcast, we had some problems with the audio, so we're going to have to wait until we get that problem fixed before we play our score. So we're going to go without playing the score this week. Um, right at the last minute, I tried to do a watch party for the election, and it was just a miserable failure. It was everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and I'm still trying to figure it out and pick up the pieces on that. But the thing is we'll get that resolved eventually. I right now I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to worry about this week, today, and now, and where we're at. Uh, um, I've invited all the winners of all the elections in the state of Kentucky to come and join us. Kentucky Secretary of State to join us as well. But I don't see anybody in here. So either they're late or they're not coming or they got other things to do. Part of that could be that I sent it to them at the last minute. I sent it to them Friday morning. Um, I didn't have time to look up all the emails, so I asked the Secretary of State to forward the email to all the uh, winners elect, and I have no idea if that was done or not. All I know is that Secretary of State's office did receive it, so I don't know what if or anything that was done with it from there. So uh, hopefully we have at least some from going to try to run late. And if you have run for office and you won your seat, you're welcome to join. Uh, I'll get vocal. You'll see um, four squares. I'm in one, and there are three other ones. They're labeled "Grab This Spot." Just click on "Grab This Spot," and then it'll get you right in here. Um, that'll be a nice thing as if we can get somebody to come in. Also, seeing as I don't see anybody in here, if anybody is in here and they wish to grab one of these spots until we get some of the winners elect in, uh, I'll hold this for open discussion and I'll leave the boxes open. Just grab the spot and then what we'll do is we'll have a little chat and see where we're at. And I'll tell you, it is wow, what a week. The election was Tuesday. Um, I have to send thank yous to the governor, to the Secretary of State, and to all the clerks, poll workers, poll watchers, and everybody that worked so hard in the election. Uh, as I was monitoring the election from the time the polls closed until everyone began reporting, Kentucky was the very first one to report its findings. And let me give the kudos to everybody that worked so hard to keep the elections free, fair, honest, and forthright. Thank you for getting the votes counted so quickly, and thank you for all that you do for Kentucky. and for America. I, for one, am very appreciative of that. Now, as I watched the election results come in, um, I noticed the counting kept going, and right about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, I called it quits on the watch party. I just totally frustrated, totally disgusted, totally outside of myself with it. So I went to bed. The next morning, I got up and I checked the Electoral College map, and I seen several states that have not reported in. And I was a little bit concerned of that. And I took a look at what I could to find out when the counting stopped. And what I found uh, the president's press conference. It was at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And there he acknowledged that the voting had stopped and made the first allegations of voter fraud. So, based on when that uh, press conference was created, or at least posted, and the time that I got up and I was watching to see if they started counting, and when I checked at about 8 o'clock in the morning, the counts resumed. So I'm estimating that the counts stopped for about 6 hours. And I don't think anybody went to bed. I think what it is I've heard about Operation Transition, and that's basically a Democratic, supposed to be a watch group, but I think they're doing a little more than watching. I think they turned around and had their discussions. They know they want Biden in there, and they're willing to get Biden in there either by hook or by crook, or whatever means necessary, including voter fraud. So I believe they took that 6 hours and engaged in discussions as to how exactly they're going to do it. I think they had discussions the day before the election on exactly how they're going to do it. And the voting kept on going till about 9 o'clock in the evening on Wednesday and didn't resume until Thursday at about 6 o'clock in the evening. So that's plenty of time for Project Transition to sit there and plan out what they're going to do as far as voter fraud should the election not fall in their favor. On Thursday, I posted on Facebook my estimation of if the voter fraud is correct, when Mr. Biden would be, um, when the media would declare Mr. Biden the winner. Now, my deadline window for that was Friday night, Saturday morning, possibly early Saturday afternoon. Okay, today's Saturday. At about 1:30 this afternoon, my phone blows up, and there's got to be 50 messages on there telling me Biden was declared the winner. I took a look on YouTube. The Federal Election Commission chairman denies that there's any voter fraud involved with the election, even though on YouTube is posted videos of people throwing votes out into a ditch, people finding boxes that are full of ballots in another ditch, people carting mysterious boxes into polling places and not being allowed in, denial to monitor the counting of the elections by keeping people out, especially Republicans. And not only that, but there are only 3 states where it is alleged that there is voter fraud. They are Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Georgia. Biden won all those states. So he gets the electoral votes, and those are the most valuable electoral votes of the final 4 states that were there. And I believe that Project Transition just decided, well, we're just going to gift Trump South Carolina by not interfering with that. And I believe that South Carolina pretty much is a true vote. They went to Trump, and it was a very narrow election, but I know a lot of people that are there. It's a good mix between liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. So being that close doesn't surprise me. That may be a free, fair election. But what's amazing me is even though states have counted 100% of the vote, it took them 2 days to report the winner. So a couple of states, it took 3 from the time they got the 100% mark. The Electoral College map was pretty much following the action. And as I followed the action, uh, Trump was ahead when I went to bed. And when I got up, Biden was 6 away from winning. So that raises a lot of suspicions with me. 6 hours went by. Let me correct myself because the way I explained that it wasn't very understandable. What happened was Trump was ahead when I went to bed. When I got up, the vote was halted, and then when the vote resumed, uh, Biden got all the electoral votes, all the way up until he was 6 away from the 270. And Nevada was in play, and they carried 6 votes. Now, Project Transition could have planned it, and at the time, I was thinking they probably were planning it to be Nevada would get uh, Biden to 270, and then Trump would get all the rest and be up to 268. That would make it for a very interesting and suspenseful election. But even the ones, the states Biden won and the states that Trump won, many of them are within 1% of each other. There are many states where it is fifth, where it is somewhere around 59.2 versus 59.7. And with it being that close, there's no doubt that the president will, and Mr. Biden will, where he lost, demand a recount and a recanvass, and scrutinize the vote to the best of our ability to make sure that every vote is legal and binding and from a single person. Now, that is another report that I've heard. It is one person bringing in hundreds of votes. Well, they have on video people bringing boxes into uh, polling places. So, yeah, it's possible. Yeah, it's also possible they could have been bringing in lunch for everybody too. That's not exactly evidence, but we don't know what happened inside, and they're not letting us in to see. And that is unacceptable because that is raising the suspicions. Now, President Trump said he's going to file in court about the voter fraud, and I hope he does, and I hope he pushes it to the max. I hope he pushes it to the limit. The states all have a certain amount of time that they have to have all disputes settled or adjudicated. And I believe the deadline for that is sometime in December. Um, the I do hope Trump pushes and pushes and pushes, and I invite Mr. Biden if he has allegations of voter fraud that he come forward with that and he push and push and push as well. But the thing is it needs to come out in the open. Did voter fraud occur? To what extent did it influence the election? And did it damage either candidate for office? The thing is the way the campaign was and the way the lower offices, I'm talking about the senators and the representative, have campaigned on the trail. Most of the Republican senators and candidates for the Senate and the House proudly carried the banner for Donald Trump and helped him with his campaign in their states. And many of the commentators are puzzled because, and I'm puzzled about it too, because at the rallies for the Republican Party in all the states, Mr. Trump's rallies had hundreds, if not thousands, of people at them. Whereas Biden barely came out of the basement that he was living in, that he was bunkered up in. And when he did come out, his audience numbered in the tens or hundreds. Wasn't very much at all. Uh, oh, they were a vocal group, But the thing is the cameras stayed trained on Mr. Biden. They never did pan the group, just like Mr. Trump's cameras did. I believe that's probably because Mr. Biden probably didn't have very many people. So why Mr. Trump in states where he was having rallies where thousands of people were gathered, why would they vote against him or even be close to voting against him as a state? And why are there so many states where it is so close that it's less than 1% difference? It's amazing when it's less than 5% difference, you know? And many states acknowledge that and call for an automatic recount uh, when there's less than 10% difference. The nice thing about our government is we are self correcting. Now, assuming Mr. Biden gains the office in the midst of voter fraud, having the voter fraud adjudicated, proven, but nothing being done about it, in 4 years, he will come up for reelection. And I'm sure Mr. Trump will run again for another term, which he's entitled to. President can run 2 terms, 10 years. Um, and I'm sure at that point, Mr. Trump will definitely win because, or they'll be, the Democrats will be emboldened to do the same thing again. But the thing is I find that that would probably trigger a civil war among the patriots. If nothing is done about voter fraud throughout the United States, if people are not going to be held to account, if the bar for the evidence and proof is so high that it cannot be possibly be surmounted, if the proof is out there and comes before the American people, which it will in a hearing, and when it goes in front of the United States Supreme Court, which I'm sure it will, I invite the Supreme Court to please televise the hearings and let the people see. That's what I would like to call for. Those hearings are supposed to be public, and the people do have a right to see. And for the sake of transparency, why not just bring the television cameras into the court? Everything that goes on in the court should be open to public scrutiny, especially seeing as it's about our elections. Our elections should be transparent and open, honest, secure. One person, one vote. And that person must be a citizen to be able to cast a vote. And, and the person casting the vote must not be a dog, a cat, a child, or anybody else who is not qualified to vote. Their identities should be able to be verified beyond a reasonable doubt. And definitely should not have a death certificate on file for them in the Division of Vital Statistics. Yes, I've heard there are thousands of dead people voting. And there's an organization named True the Vote. They have volunteers all over the country in all 50 states. And they go out and they take a look at the voter rolls and they compare the people that voted to the death certificates to establish whether they were alive or dead at the time of the vote. And then what they do is they do not seek punitive action, but they do file a report with the Secretary of State. Assuming there is voter fraud going on, I am certain it will be eventually be found out. Sooner or later, I am convinced through my life experience, the truth always comes out. And when you lie, you have to lie again and again and again. And sooner or later, you're going to get caught up in your lies and you're going to trip up somewhere. That's when the truth becomes revealed. Republicans, by and large, are an honest lot. Yes, there's some that are less than honest, but by and large, as a group, pretty honest. They're pretty forthright. They have a conscience. Democrats, on the other hand, as a group, they lie, they deceive, they mismanage. They have a life paradigm that is not sustainable unless other people are doing the work. And what they like to do is they like to take money from other people and rob them of the fruits of their labor so that they can enjoy a nice life. So, with that in mind, Mr. Biden, if you're president, I look forward to higher taxes. I look forward to destruction of the energy industry, which is coal and oil, gasoline, diesel fuel. Oh, you're going to subsidize the farmers, but the thing is, without the diesel fuel, the trucks are going to stop. Without the gasoline, the local trucks are going to stop. You're going to create all these electric cars that everybody's going to drive in, but there are going to be no coal-fired power plants burning clean coal. There are going to be no natural gas power plants to produce the electricity needed for those cars, so those cars will stop as well. Oh, yeah, we got wind turbines and we got dams, hydroelectric dams. And what else we got? Solar panels. Well, Mr. Biden, I don't believe we have the capability. I don't believe we are advanced enough with our current capabilities to be able to supply the energy demands solely through electricity of the United States or even a single state, much less the world. California's gone totally green. They do have the renewable energy. They have already outlawed fossil fuels. What they have to show for it, they have the rolling blackouts. For several hours each day, LA, San Francisco, San Diego, parts of it, the electricity turns off. and then another neighborhood will turn off. And by the time they're chasing it down, fixing whatever it is they need to fix, doing whatever it is they need to do, flipping whatever switches they need to flip to try to restore power, there's another blackout there that they got to chase. And it grows. Californians are getting used to living parts of the day with absolutely no electricity, no air conditioning. There's some that are sitting there saying, if we elect Biden, we're going to go back to the Stone Age. I don't think we're going to go back to the Stone Age. But I do think in Mr. Biden's presidency will make life more difficult. It will drive business back offshore, and it will be the ruin of our economy. Mr. Trump has made great strides in improving the economy and improving that the free market does work. But Mr. Biden believes that government is the great blesser. It is because of government that business is allowed to exist. Mr. Biden, I put to you that we all have a right to exist. And according to the Constitution of the United States, we are created in the image of our Creator. And we are endowed with certain unalienable rights, which are rights which you cannot take away, must not take away. And those rights are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that is where the whole of our law comes from. The free market works because people risk their resources in an effort to gain profit. And then they invest that profit back into what they are doing to create more profit. And on it goes. And that is what funds our lives. Money is not the root of all evil, for money is only a tool. The love of money, greed, that is the root of all that is evil. A dollar is simply a representation of the value of our work and worth. That's what we use to trade for goods and services. It's what we use to celebrate our standard of living. The top 1% of the world's richest people live in the United States. Abject poverty is not having enough to eat, no roof over your head, no clothes on your back. Here in the United States, we are blessed, totally blessed. I'll agree we do have a homeless problem in many cities. But the thing is there aren't very many people going hungry. In fact, obesity is uh, one of the biggest health problems according to the Food and Drug Administration or Health and Human Services. You know, I remember it's not that long ago. There was this big splash all over the news how obesity is the world's greatest health hazard, and Americans are at the top of the list with it. And so, we don't have very many people here in America going hungry. And as far as going naked, I don't see very many people in the United States going naked. I see most of the people here as being well dressed. You go to some third world countries out in Africa, they can't afford clothes. They can't afford shoes. They run around naked because they have to, not because they want. And don't tell me because they do it because they don't believe in God, because they do believe in God. And if they're in a third world country that is impoverished because of their leaders, then we may need to help. I believe charity should be a private thing. I don't believe government should be involved in any kind of charity, especially foreign aid to governments. I don't know who started the foreign aid thing. I don't care who started the foreign aid thing. I think it's just a big waste of money because we throw money at these other nations, some of them that don't like us. We make them stronger by sending them resources that we should be using ourselves. We give it to them, make them stronger, and the thing is we send them arms and make them stronger, and we make them stronger and make ourselves weaker, like Mr. Biden will do. And sooner or later, they're going to sit there and say, hey, maybe we can take over there and get those resources. Now, God has truly blessed us with a land of bounty, a land flowing with milk and honey. Most fertile land on the face of the earth. We have the most agreeable temperate weather for the farmers. America feeds the world. We export food all over the world to countries that either have trouble growing it or are otherwise unable to grow it. It is American charities that go overseas into these third world countries to teach the people how to farm and how to grow their own food and how to be more self sufficient. Mr. Biden, government aid is not the key. The key to life is being self sufficient and having opportunities. The role of government is to protect its citizens and foster an environment which opportunities are made. Opportunities are made by having an idea and a dream, thinking it out, writing it out on paper, putting resources to the action. And then you open up your business, file your paperwork so you can pay your taxes, and start operations. And if you are adding value or you're doing something that is of value, you should be able to feed yourself. The last 4 years under the Trump administration, many more people have become more self sufficient. But then when COVID hit, not only were those people thrown back out of work, but many more as well. But Mr. Trump called for the reopening of the country very quickly. And I believe he was right in getting the country reopened. I believe closing it down was a knee jerk reaction, but I understand what it was. The information that we had at the time was very sketchy. Better to err on the side of caution than to uh, allow many more to die. So I'm not judging Mr. Trump's action to save lives by declaring the emergency. After all, each governor is responsible for their own state, and they're actually the ones that ordered the shutdown of the economy. I compliment Mr. Bashir for reopening Kentucky as quickly as he did. And I would like to encourage him, the statistics being what they are. Yes, new cases of COVID are going up. Part of that is increased testing. Part of that is increased frequency of testing. And part of that is that we are catching more cases earlier where people are not being required to be hospitalized. I believe we have a handle on it here in Kentucky to the best extent that we're able to. The death rate, from what I see, is remaining relatively stable. I don't see more deaths occurring than I have at the beginning. You know, definitely definitely there are no more deaths than what we had at the beginning. 10, 15, what maybe 20 a day. I think the highest is about 25. Yeah, I'd like to see that go down too, but at what expense? At the destruction of ourselves? Let's keep the economy going. Let's keep the economy growing. Let's keep putting people back to work the best we can. I believe Kentucky is probably our last best hope for freedom and liberty in the Union. And I believe that's what all Americans yearn for. On the basis of the Statue of Liberty, it states, "Give me your tired and your poor and those who yearn for liberty." We welcome people who love liberty, and we welcome people who love the United States, where we are the freest nation on the face of the earth. And as long as the people, maintain our liberty and our freedom, we shall surely be blessed of God. But if we fail to maintain our liberty and our freedom, then God will be against us, and he will go to another, and they will come and defeat us. That's my prophecy. Things go around in circles. It's happened before, it can happen again. Rome fell because they lost their way to liberty. As long as as the people were free to do as they pleased, Rome prospered. When they left the liberty and started enslaving other people, they fell. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Be careful, Mr. Biden and Miss Harris. What you ask for, you may just get it. Will it be what you expect it to be and all that you hope for? Or will it be a curse around your neck? We all have our choices, life or death. Like it or not, God would have us to choose life, but we also have a right to choose death. Are we going to live together or are we going to die together? Kentucky state motto: united we stand, divided we fall. Let us all come together and stand together in unity as Americans. Yes, we will have our squabbles. Yes, we will have our disagreements. Yes, we will look at life each in our own way, for that is the right that we have. Let us be accepting of others and tolerant of others, and show them the light of God and the ways of Christ, which is love, understanding, forbearance, and coming together. For it is written that we should let our light so shine that other people may see it. People see how we live. We're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God. I believe sin is sin, and whether you step on a crack of the sidewalk or you kill 100 people, sin is sin. It's all equal in God's eyes, life or death, blessings or cursings, prosperity or destitute, prosperity or poverty. It is written that the poor you have with you always. Yes, we should help those who are less fortunate, but we should give them a hand up, not a hand out. We need to be teaching them how to hold down a job, how to imagine the possibilities, how to create a business so that they can create their own job, so that they can have something to do and make a profit and live a good life. Where much is given, much is required. You only get out of life what you put into it. The thing is if you put your all into life, you have a right to get your all out of it. Yes, government is a necessary evil and it needs to be supported, but the government needs to also keep true to its mission, which is the protection of the people and the fostering of the marketplace. That is the first and second duty of government. And I have not heard much about the deficit spending lately, but I'm sure it's still going on. And as much as Mr. Trump has rebuilt the military, and he's rebuilt it to a point where he's fairly comfortable with it. A deterrence force that is capable of probably taking on the entire world simultaneously and defeating him. A lot of the a lot of these nations have cultures that are different than ours, where we respect meekness, humility, and order. They respect strength. You know, those countries have things called honor killings. They're vicious. All they understand is power and might. All they understand is life and death. Everybody of sound mind wishes to live. And those who are not of a sound mind, they need our help. They need to reach out. Illness is illness, whether it's physical or mental. And we need to get rid of the stigma associated with it. In fact, let's be more honest with ourselves and let's try to eliminate stigma in all its forms wherever we find it. And as we eliminate the stigma, we will eliminate many of the other sins, such as racism, religionism, uh, casteism, and other religions that limit the liberty of the people, especially liberalism, communism, and humanism, which is another religion. We all celebrate religion in whatever form, even if we worship ourselves, even if we believe all that's to the universe is ourself. That is still a religion. So, what do you want to do? Do you want to say, gimme, gimme, gimme? Or would you rather go to somebody who's less fortunate than you are and say, here you go? It is written, it is better to give than to receive. I think it's better to bless somebody else, have a servant's heart, than it is to take what you can get and try to steal from your neighbor. When you sit there and you truly love other people, you want to get along with them. And as you try to get along with other people, for the most part, they try to get along with you. And that eliminates a lot of the drama in life. The people are sitting there talking about high blood pressure and how unhealthy Americans are. Thing is if we can just learn to all get along, there would be so much less stress in the world. If we all come together around a common theme, we can we can be in our little box if we so choose. We can label ourselves whatever we want. We could stack those labels up to where it's taller than the Empire State Building or the Sears Tower. It doesn't change the fact that there is a commonality between us as being Americans. And we have a certain amount of tradition and history that we share. And that needs to be celebrated. And if you cannot celebrate another person's differences, then I would say it's high time you learn how to do that because everyone has something to offer. Whether you're able bodied, disabled, depraved, impoverished, everyone has their wisdom, everyone has their opinion. In the coming together and having the free exchange of thought, we can get through all the misinformation, and through discussion, we can get to the truth. But it takes a certain amount of maturity to do that. Are we as Americans mature enough to move forward with what is to come? Are we mature enough to sit there and say, we are making mistakes with this? Are we mature enough to sit there and say, yes, we're being dishonest and it's wrong, so let us correct it? It's easier to own up to your mistakes and correct for them rather than to try to cover them up and hope nobody finds them. Because somebody's always going to find them and somebody's going to complain about it and somebody's going to do something about it. And when it comes to voter fraud, I hope people are held to account. I am so dismayed that, in my opinion, the top criminal is still doing her job without any sanction whatsoever. And not being held to account. Namely, Miss Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House. Before she retires in January, I would love for the United States Army to march a squad into the chamber of the House and the commander to take the microphone and say, Miss Nancy Pelosi, you are under arrest. And the charge is destruction of government documents. Please cooperate and surrender yourself to these gentlemen in front of me, where she may or may not put up a fight. That's up to her. But she ends up being handcuffed and escorted out in shame. For what she did was shameful, and what she did, she should stand in a court of law to account. Forgive my unforgiveness. May God do so. Let's try to forgive each other. Let's try to be good to each other. Let's try to share with each other. Let us go forward in the faith of God, in the will of God. I pray that God will show himself victorious by having a proper result, whatever it is, whatever challenges God wishes to set before us. All I ask for is free, fair, and honest election. And what I call for is that all these complaints and allegations of voter fraud have their day in court. Each jurisdiction have a hearing where evidence is introduced, witnesses are heard, and judgment is rendered. I don't want to rush to judgment, but I do take great offense at the accusation. And we do have a limited amount of time to get everything done. So where there's evidence to support the allegations, let's find out who is behind it. Or at least if we can't establish who is behind it, then let's start an investigation to find out who is behind it and who is responsible. Because for every ballot, someone is responsible for something. And if we can't find out who is directly responsible, then we hold the county clerk and the secretary of state's responsible for the fraud themselves. And if those clerks and secretaries of state and governors, if need be, do not cooperate or try to impede the investigation, that they be held to account, arrested, charged, jailed if necessary. And that they be given their day in court as well. For going to court is how we settle our disputes. We are a civilized people. We're not barbarians. We don't kill to get our way. Let us all gather together in one accord, state by state, rally by rally. Let's support those with us and condemn those who are against us. But most of all, let us try to love each other. Let everything we do be in love. Till next week, this is Daniel Lessing, and this is Podcast for Life.